Okay, you guys with me here? Hi. This is my first trip outside since I got sick earlier this year with pneumonia. That led me up for a while. So I decided to take the opportunity and come out now. And take my new camera and you guys for a walk around the woods. We are between storms. Now let me look around here. This is, you can see my footprints here. We got about 12 inches dumped on us yesterday, day before, and about 6 inches a few days before that, and we're due for a foot or more in the next couple of days. So we are between storms, and it is a balmy 15 degrees right now. So let me see what I can do about getting you guys hooked up to a little fancier rig. Hold on one second. Wait, how does that? Is that the one? I'm going to set you down right there. Alright. Still playing with my new toys here, so it does take a bit of doing. I'm going to wear you on my head. I didn't wear you so far because to get here I had to go through a good stretch of tight pine barrens bracketed by birch saplings. Or the way around, birch saplings bracketed by pine barrens. So, not fun. Not fun. Oh, and I guess you guys just right straight into there. So, let's go here. There we go. Okay. Yeah, that should work. Okay, up we go. Hat's coming off. You guys are going on. Okay. How is the view from up there? Alright. Now I have to leave my hat off while I do this, but that's alright. It's not that cold out here. Like I said, it's 15 degrees, which is pretty much a balmy spring day for us here, especially for this time of year. Normally, the temperature here in Vermont in February is quite far below zero. Sometimes 25, 30 below zero for a month or more at a stretch. All right, can I put my hat on over the top of you guys? Oh, look at that. I can. Ta-da. All right, let me know if that blocks you guys' view at all. But we will see how we do. All right, up off my butt. Pack up. And zip up. Unzipped a bit to cool down while I sat. You never want to get too overheated, because as Les Stroud says, you sweat, you die in these kind of terrain. All right, whoop, here we go. Brush the snow off my butt here. I tried to brush the snow off the log where I sat down, but it was only partially successful. There was too much ice frozen to that log. All right, let's go down here. There's a little bit of a snowmobile trail. I think here you can kind of see it, and then it goes up this way. And down there's where I came from, which was 60 feet or so of a nice 45-degree slope full of those birch saplings and pines. That was not fun. Even in the best of times, and plunging through knee-deep snow. I mean, look at this. Can you guys see? Okay, that's not too bad right there. That's only about calf deep. But the problem is we've got about 20 inches of snow on top of another foot of older snow that's been there for months. Some of that older snow is rotten, so you go to step on it, and rather than stepping on hard packed frozen snow, you plunge knee deep or thigh deep right through it. Terrain like this is definitely why I carry a walking stick, because it helps to have a stable point of contact. Just in case you lose your footing, it's easier to self-arrest to keep from sliding down a hill. Or if you only lose one foot, you've still got your other foot and the stick, which will help keep you from, where do you go? Right there, leaf falling right on a rabbit track. Or nope, looks like that leaf just soaked up some sunlight and melted a little snow. Gotta pull up my pants. Gosh, I lost so much weight from that pneumonia that either my jeans nor my belt fit right anymore. For the first time in a long time, I'm gonna have to get a smaller belt. But that's all right. This is definitely where snowshoes would come in handy. Now, while we're just kind of moving here, I'll talk a little bit about winter safety. First thing, if you can, never go alone. I'm not alone. I've got you guys with me. Second, dress in layers. Because while big old puffy coats might be warm, big old snow boots might keep your feet warm. The thing is, unless you're sitting on a snowmobile, sitting at camp, sitting at ski lift, you're going to be moving. And if moving consists of plowing through 2-foot deep snow, you're going to heat up. And that's why you can wear layers. Unzip one, unzip two, take one off, lose your hat, lose your gloves, but you always want to be slightly on the cool side. Not cold, because then it's too easy to lose track of how cold you actually are as you get used to the cold, as your skin loses sense and deadens, and you can wind up hypothermic really easily. And two, you don't want to be too warm, because then you'll start sweating. And once that sweat hits cold air, it'll freeze and chill you to the bone, and you'll wind up hypothermic. Two, it may sound gross, but if you know you're going to go on an excursion, don't shower that day. Don't shower the night before. Throw on dirty underclothes, undershirt, long johns, whatever. Like I said, sounds gross, but all those oils that your body produces will do two things. One, those oils will actually help keep you warm because they will add a little bit of insulation to your underclothes. Two, it will help keep your underclothes from soaking up sweat if you do sweat. So that means if you do sweat, the sweat might stay on your body because your underclothes won't wick it away, but that doesn't mean that your underclothes won't freeze. Gosh, this is slow going. This is going up. I don't know if you can see it, but level path, not quite a 45, probably about a 30-degree incline. Having to make sure of my footing here. Look at that tree right there. That sucker is going to fall at some point. Let's not go under it. In fact, let's get off the trail. Let's go that way. Because, see, it'll either fall this way, fall that way, break off over there, fall straight down, or that'll kick back, it'll slide that way. The one way it is not going to go, that way. Because if that side falls and that doesn't, that means that point is still anchored. So it'll swing around in a sweep. So let's go over here. It'll cost us, sweet Jeebus, a little bit of time and effort. But look at that old barbed wire fence. And that's because this belongs to the town of Worcester. Water supply is up there, big old tank on the hill. Not sure how it gets fed, but this is all public land. I think this is private. Not sure who it belongs to. There's a house down there, but that's across the street. And there's one further down that way. I don't know if their property extends back this way or if this is just an old lot that belongs to somebody in name, but not actual residents. Still, I don't think somebody's going to mind me coming a few feet onto their property from community property to avoid a potential falling tree. Now, I don't know if you can see it. You might be able to see the shadows along the way there, but there's a little swale right here. It risen up, I don't know, about 18 inches. Now this could be a small hillock. I don't know if you saw that, but one poke, two poke. One poke, two poke. Well, three poke right there. But this looks like a bunch of ice and snow that probably froze on top of sticks and leaves, because underneath that ice there's a good 3 or 4 inches of empty space. So again, we're going to skirt around this guy. This is one thing if you're ever trekking in the winter and you don't have snowshoes, cross-country skis, freaking snowmobile, anything like that, you're going to get used to. As long as I've been talking to you guys, I've come 120 feet maybe. But two things. One, it's nice to get out and see what your land looks like in the winter. Although here in Vermont, that's sometimes 6 months out of the year. Two, it's valuable experience just in case you ever get stuck somewhere and need to actually make a go of it. I'm not talking end of the world doom and gloom, but out on a ski trip, get caught in a blizzard, transportation shuts down, big old winter storm like Athena that hit New York City a few years ago, all kinds of bad things can happen. Because sometimes Mother Nature can just be grumpy. Getting woken up at New Year's, getting told she needs to start a new year. Oh, hey, look at this over here. I don't know if that's a fall or if that's a den of some kind. I don't see any tracks. You can see the little stippling all around there, but there's no pattern to it. That's just snow falling off the trees. So I don't think that's a den. Still. We do have bears around here. I don't think there's, unless they dug out a great big hankin' heap of dirt, in which case there'd be spoils heaps, big old mounds of dirt where they dug it out. But let's go take a look at that. Two things. One, the bears up here, small little black bears, 150, 200 pounds. Two, any bear that comes out of there is going to be hungry after hibernating. So, I don't have my glasses on, I can't see very well. Now that looks like a rock. Was sheltered a little bit from. Nope. Part of the tree. I think that guy, you can see some of it fell over that way. Probably most of it. Maybe some of it fell this way because I don't see any breaks overhead. Unless it fell from that guy up there, but seems a little bit solid. Don't know. I am not an expert tree fallologist. Treefologist? Nah, that sounds like ufologist. Let's go tree fallologist. The extra syllable in there makes it sound more scientific. Alright. Now, ideally, when we get to the top of the hill, it'll slow down, it'll slope down, and kind of curve around a little bit to the left, and back around to the right, go down steeper, and down into some floodlands. There's a couple of streams, a brook, and during the spring when the runoff is here, the whole place is flooded. It turns into a pretty good quagmire. And the other thing, make sure you guys are recording. Hey, 18 minutes, nice. The other thing is I had planned to come out here and get a fire going, make a little camp, but you can see the problem. There's no place that's sheltered at all. So it is what it is, and that's why I always bring a couple of heavy-duty contractor bags. It's starting to snow. You can see gray clouds moving in from the southwest there. And if I remember right, the storm that's supposed to be hitting here moved through Chicago, Illinois. So that's about the direction it'll be coming from. Occasionally, they'll come from that way, which is the northwest. Come from the Great Lakes, Canada, or just from the straight west. Very, very occasionally, we'll have some come from the southeast, up the coast. Those are usually pretty nasty, because those are the winter storms that pick up a lot of moisture over the ocean and then decide to dump it all here. So let's keep going. Oops. I'm truth be told, I'm actually pretty warm here. I'm wearing flannel pajama bottoms underneath my jeans, which I probably shouldn't have because they'll soak up moisture that makes it through my jeans. And as you can see, the bottom leg of my jeans are pretty much caked with snow and will no doubt freeze solid by the time I get home, which is always fun. It's not a true winter excursion unless you had to chip ice off your clothes or out of your beard or mustache. For the gentlemen watching this, or ladies, no discrimination. Women can rock as awesome of a mustache as men any day they want. All right, let's keep. And I hope to make a camp because I brought a can of beef stew and was going to have some lunch out here. But the problem is, now once we go over the hill, there's some tighter pines, not quite as big as these huge guys, so they might actually have some coverage underneath them. In which case, I'll see about stopping and getting a fire going. I brought some Surefire bricks, which are always good for starting a fire because they'll light even when they're wet and they'll burn for 4 or 5 minutes. Going back, winter safety. So never go alone. Clothes, dirty, filthy, awesome. Supplies. Now, you hear all the time, don't eat snow. Well, I'm going to eat some snow. Make sure the snow is clean. This is all fresh fallen stuff. I got no worry about that. Now, they tell you not to eat snow because your body's got to expend calories, i.e. energy, to warm that cold water up in your gut before your body will use it. And that's soaking heat out of you. However, if you're like me and just slightly overheating at the moment, then a nice handful of snow or two will actually help cool you down. It's one of those things where a little knowledge is good, but it can be deadly. Because when it gets really cold, I mean 25, 30 degrees below zero, and the wind is howling, that will suck all the moisture right out of you as surely as a desert wind will. And if you're not replenishing your fluids, you'll wind up with headaches, you'll find it hard to move, become disoriented, all the usual telltale symptoms associated with things like heat stroke, but in the freezing cold. The only thing I don't think you get is nausea, because you can't throw up if you got no water in you. Yeah, I don't even want to picture that. So, bring water if you can. If not, eating snow is fine as long as you're not sitting down doing nothing, trying to conserve body heat. The other thing you can do too is if you've got a Ziploc bag, and I always recommend bringing at least one with you. I mean, go for the actual name brand Ziploc freezer bags, the thick, heavy-duty guys. Throw some snow in that guy, throw it in your pack. Well, make sure it's locked up tight. Throw it in your pack, throw it in your pocket somewhere where it's going to warm up and melt. And now, snow is fluffy. So as it melts, you'll get just like a tiny little bit of water. So you get a full Ziploc bag full of snow and it melts, you might get like a quarter to a third of a bag of water, which is, I don't know, maybe a cup and a half. It won't keep you alive. if you're dying of thirst, but it'll stave off the thirst long enough to melt you some more snow. Son of a monkey. Okay. Food is also extremely useful. Now, balanced diets are important. And the important thing is knowing what things do for you. Sugars, fats, proteins, and salt. Salt you don't necessarily need to eat, but you do need to keep an intake of salt, especially if you're sweating. Because salts are basically what your body uses to talk to itself. All the things that nerve impulses travel along are reliant upon your salt intake. So if you start running salt deficient, you start losing sensitivity in your fingers and toes, which can prevent you from noticing the signs of frostbite. You can get clumsier. You can lose your train of thought far more easily because you're not thinking correctly. So always maintain your salt intake, which generally isn't a problem if you're bringing things like prepackaged foods. And that's why I prefer things like Denny Moore beef stew with a pop-top lid. You just pop that lid right off and eat that stew right out of the can. Ooh, getting up here, the wind's starting to pick up. That's cold. Now, the one thing you do have to be careful about when you're making any kind of pre-made can thing is try not to heat it up in the can. You used to be able to when food was sealed in just plain tin or steel cans or aluminum cans. You can't do that anymore because they coat the inside of the can with some kind of plastic coating to make sure everything slides out easier. Now, I'm sure that plastic is perfectly safe. You could probably eat a block of it and it would just pass right through your system. It's probably nothing more than paraffin or something like that. However, I don't like plastic or wax in my beef stew. Therefore, always bring a container. And I picked up a few little steel dog dishes from Tractor Supply for a couple of bucks a piece. They were having a sale. Small little ones, like a bowl of cereal size, was like $2. Ones a little larger were $3. So I spent $7, got 3 bowls. Brought one with me today. But we will see if I can get somewhere where I can actually make camp, get a fire going, which would be nice. Take my jacket off, take my hat off, set you guys down. Didn't bring my tripod because I am a derp. However, I did bring my little gorilla hand thing so I can plant my stick in the ground, put my gorilla hand on that, put you guys on that. You could join me for some lunch. If and when. Now, if I were looking for a place to sleep, because I'm stuck out here, underneath that pine tree might be good. Of course, it's going to be less snow under there. You can clear that out. Clear our little thing beside it to get a fire going. Drape my contractor bag, slit it open, make it into a big sheet, drape it around the pine tree after I knock the snow off, and yeah, I think that would go fairly well. Where you guys point down just a little bit more. Okay. So, onward we go. Oh, next point. Winter survival. Food, water, icky, dirty, nasty clothes. Don't go alone. Shelter, fire, always important. When I'm out and about, I do love using my striker to get fire going. However, in conditions like this, nah. Bring a lighter. I mean, you can pick up a pack of Zippos at Walmart for $5. Toss one in your backpack every now and then, and you're good to go. Because in conditions like this, using flint and steel, even a ferro rod, is going to be difficult. So don't do it. Be smart. And shelter, well, ideally, you can bring things like a nice tent, a mummy bag, maybe some of those little chemical pocket warmers, little alcohol-fueled stove to heat your tent. We're planning on being just out and out, not setting up a base camp to climb Everest. So I tend to bring a couple of, like those, what is it, 35, 42 gallon contractor bags, the 9mm ones, the thick ones. Do you hear that? Beep, 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 beep. That's a bird. Somewhere. Off that way. So contractor bags, because one, they make great ground cover. When they're that thick, you can roll around and sit on them without too much worry of them being destroyed. And two, good shelter. And they're not flimsy, so they'll stand up to a little bit of wind, a little bit of debris hitting it, as well as being thick enough that they won't get little pinholes that'll let rain in. If I had a little bit of time and the inclination, this would potentially be a good place to spend the night. I don't think that snag would come down at all. The other limb looks pretty healthy, but I have to pull my glasses out and take a better look at it. Still, onward we go. Well, as you can see, I crested the hill. Now this is a little flat kind of saddle coming up to another rise before dipping down. Onward we go. We got a tree blocking our way here, and the snow is getting deeper because we're reaching the top of the hill, and there's no hill to block the way, which means we may see more snow. The snow's almost reached up to the boys here. This is not too comfortable. Dead? Nope, still alive. Just keeled over. And you can tell if a tree is dead if you take a small branch like this and you bend it. And it bends, means it's still alive. If it breaks, that means there's no more sap flowing through it and it's dried out. So it'll just snap. Like that. This, probably dead. Because it just like, yeah. Good for fire. In fact, is this a whole branch that's stuck in the ground? Are you? Yeah, it might be. Looks like it might have just broke off and fell straight down to the ground, which happens sometimes. Dang it. Yep, now I'm stuck up to my thigh. Awesome. Normally, I carry a burlap sack with me, but I didn't bring it today because I didn't count on forage, or at least not foraging until I'd made a camp. But some things are too good to pass up. That's the water. Let's go around this guy here. Probably this way. If you're retracing your steps and it's the same day, step in the footprints you already made. If it's not the same day, that means that the snow and ice you compressed down has already refrozen. So it'll probably be a good chunk of ice at the bottom of the step, which isn't a bad thing. It's just something to be aware of. Because if you don't have much of a tread on your boot, you'll compress it flat. Or if it's been warm out, it'll melt flat and then refreeze. So you'll wind up with a flat, slick, footprint-shaped block of ice at the bottom of each footprint. And that is a quick recipe for falling on your butt, my friends. Oh, look at that. Doesn't that look like a human footprint almost? You got a heel, toes, big toe. Except there's nothing else. I don't know any kids that would... Oh. Is that another one? Listen to how quiet that is. There is absolutely no sound. It's always moments like that when you find something. It's nothing. It's a pattern of snow that fell on the ground. But your brain's like, oh, look at that. It's a little kid's footprint in the middle of nowhere. And that's when your brain goes, shh, it's quiet. Because normally, if it's dead silent, that means there's a predator around. And all the little critters are too afraid to make any noise. So, if you're ever in the woods, you listen to the birds, maybe there's a deer calling in the background, squirrels chittering, and it goes dead silent. Yeah. Eyes out, because something is in the area that has spooked those animals. Something that you probably did not hear or notice because you're busy talking to your camera and crunching through the underbrush. However, in the dead of winter, there's nothing. I mean, yeah, there's deer around here, possibly some rabbits. I've never seen a squirrel in this stretch of the woods. There are occasionally wild turkeys, plenty of ravens, and these tiny little birds that I always see dying from the cold because they're stupid and don't fly south for the winter. Now, the ravens are big. They will take over trash cans, and I've seen them fight off cats and even dogs for the scraps left behind. However, that's about it. Other than that, there's supposedly catamounts, mountain lions, something like that around here. I've never seen any, never heard tale of anybody who did. There was a lynx that was spotted in the north of the state. They were all but extinct here in Vermont. There's a hefty fine for messing with them, but the breeding stocks up north in Quebec are making a comeback and have started to spread south again, which is good and bad. Good, on the one hand, in that a natural species is reclaiming its territory. Bad, on the other hand, because now that means that puppy dogs and kitty cats, chickens, goats, maybe even sheep and larger animals will start turning up missing. at a higher rate because there are foxes around here too. But generally, foxes, like most woodland animals, you don't have to worry about unless they're either defending their kits or are rabid. So, yeah, if you get attacked by a fox, go to a doctor because you probably got rabies. Or your friend has a fox for a pet and didn't tell you how vicious it was. One of the two. All right. Other things to watch out for when you're out and about in the winter. Don't have to worry about it so much at these heights. Just on mountains and higher places where there's greater degrees of slope are avalanches. See, here you don't really have enough of a slope for the facing to break away and slide down. You see that further up in the mountains. Here you might get like a little avalanche that will knock you on your butt. But always be aware, always keep an eye on the snow. If there's anything that looks remotely hinky, don't go near it. Overhangs, big old like shark fins of snow that just look like they're a frozen wave, don't go near that. Yes, it's probably just a jagged cliff, hillock, rock, something under there that's been catching the snow. But then again, it might not be. That could be just how the wind's been blowing the snow. And you're one good heave away from riding a frozen wave of snow to the bottom of the mountain. And a horrible, gruesome death with a twisted, gnarly corpse. Plenty of blood. It would be horrible. Don't do that. Fire safety is another thing to be aware of. Now, 3 feet of snow on the ground, wildfire's probably not a thing. However, if you find an open space and you get a good fire going, do be aware that if there's any dead roots, dead branches underneath the ground, you can warm them up. You can heat them enough where they will keep the heat, possibly even be smoldering long after the fire's dead. So, after you make a fire, when you're done, when you're leaving, throw some good snow on top of that. Just so, A, the snow will help put out any remaining embers, flames, and 2, as that snow melts, if the ground isn't already saturated with water, because of the fire, it'll saturate the water again and snuff out any embers that are going below. Okay. We made it. Whew. I tell you what, nice bottle of Dr. Pepper would go mighty fine right now. But no doctor. So I might wind up melting some snow if I do get a fire going. Now see, these are the pines I was talking about. If you keep your eyes open, you might find a cluster of them together. Oh wow, yeah, the snow is really deep here. I don't know if you can see it, but there's another swale right here. Going to try to avoid that. Another good place for a night. The actual floor is 2 or 3 feet lower than what I'm standing on. So, what's that? Oh, just a fallen branch. Well, I hadn't really meant to go too far, so what I'll do is I'll go to the bottom of this little slope, and then it gets kind of steep, and I'm worried that footing will get more treacherous because during the spring, when it's muddy, I have slid down that a couple of times over the years. And while it isn't as bad as the time I tumbled over the cliff, which was over that way, breaks down into about a 50-foot cliff leading down to the actual Minister Brook. It is a good slide on your butt, and hopefully not your face. Because sliding 30 or 40 feet on your face, not good. Not good. This tree, you can see it has actually split, and for whatever reason, probably to crush yours truly, is still standing upright. So, far be it from me to question the Acme trap making abilities of Mother Nature. Sorry, Ma Nature. But I think I'm going to turn around and take you guys back home and see how this hike turned out. As you can see there, I would take the path around this guy. And I think, if I remember right, that's another smaller snowmobile trail. Runs up there, up top of the hill, goes around, and then comes back this way. And this is actually like prime snowmobiling weather. I'm surprised that none of the locals have their machines out. Oh well. Fine by me. So, back we go. The other thing to watch out too is if you are retracing your footprints and you don't step on them just right, because as you step down, you compress the snow underneath it. So you're basically creating a step underneath your foot. If you step to the side of it, you won't step on that step, so maybe it will compress the same, maybe it won't. So you might wind up with your heel on the step and then your toes not, or vice versa. And it can make for some treacherous footing. Which, again, stick. This guy always comes with me when I walk. He's, I don't know, 2 or 3 years old at the moment. That set up good at that time. I fire hardened the bottom. It's got one big chip knocked out of it, a couple smaller ones. I need to go back and re-oil it, because don't want it drying out and splitting even more from the cold. Look at that. Mug root beer. It's been here a while. Label's faded. Maybe since last winter. Ordinarily I'd take it with me, but hanging like that, it might be a trail marker for somebody. Out here, people don't spend much time and effort on fancy little hanging tape and signs. They'll make whatever they can. Even sometimes just a blaze on the tree. Blaze being marked with your knife, cutting just like a symbol on it, a line, a series of lines. Some people develop whole codes of blazes to say, you know, this way to camp, this way to the lake, this way to the stream. So always be aware, just keep your eyes open. That guy right there looks like a municipal marking tape of some kind on that tree. Maybe to bring it down come spring. There's no telling. So, for those of you who have never seen it, this is Vermont in the winter. 3 feet of snow on the ground, 2 feet of fresh, about a foot of frozen, with more to come. Temperature's beautiful. I mean, okay, to people not used to it, 15 degrees is probably pretty dang cold. But up here, like I said, that's like a balmy spring day. Because already, earlier this year, middle of December, I think it was, one Saturday when I was going to the farmer's market, they'd actually shut it down, and most of downtown Montpelier was closed up because the wind chill that day was 45 below zero. So, 45 below zero, 15 degrees. That is a difference of 60 degrees, my friends. Think about where you are. Think about if it was 60 degrees warmer. It'd be pretty nice, wouldn't it? We're pretty hot. So, compared to as cold as it gets here, and as cold as it has been this year, yeah, this is pretty dang warm. I'm wearing a long sleeve undershirt and a vest and my jacket, but right now my jacket is mostly open. It's unbuttoned. I got just my vest and my undershirt keeping me warm, and with as much as I'm working here, it is doing mighty fine. Now, one thing I didn't think of, this tree up here, let's take care of it for any snowmobilers and whatnot that come along. See if we can't move it out of the way. Because the last thing we need is some 10 or 12-year-old kid on a snowmobile whipping through here, sunset or dawn, not seeing very well. All right, so we will do it this way. Yeah, this tree's dying. Look at this on my gloves. This is some kind of tree rust, so I don't feel too bad about doing this. I'm not going to cut it all the way through, because this way the stump is more noticeable. You don't really want a stump sticking straight up out of the ground where somebody falls, they won't see it, get impaled like some kind of horrible 80s action movie effect. Not saying it will happen, but saying it could. And always try to cut down on unnecessary risks. Hence why I moved that tree. That was weird. I just saw somebody move up there. Huh. Hello? Maybe it was a little kid whose footprints I found. Oof. All right, Mother Nature. You can keep your little ghosts and goblins. Your little winter sprites. I won't come looking for them. Not today, at least. Probably not ever. Because, yeah. I don't believe them, but necessarily. But think about all of those old tales. Will-o'-the-wisps and such. That would lead travelers astray by covering up their trail and then laying false trails so that they would get lost in the woods, wander around for days, weeks before finding freedom, or just wind up perishing in the wild. Makes you wonder why people would make up stories like that. but at the same time, you get good, solid woodsmen out who have been going out to the woods all their lives, who mysteriously vanish or get found someplace they weren't supposed to be, months or years later, dead. And you wonder how they got there. What led them to that? So, people tell stories. That's all they had for entertainment back in the day. Farming's done for the day. Sun's down. You're getting ready to eat or you're eating. What do? You talk. You tell stories. Tell stories about the war. Tell stories about that day Mrs. Jenkins' pig got loose and you and 5 of the guys spent the whole day looking for it because that was a prime sow for giving piglets, and Mrs. Jenkins wanted that boy back something fierce. So all around and around and around through the mud, through the forest, through the brambles, getting cut up, filthy, reeking to high heaven, only to come back at sunset and tell Mrs. Jenkins, nope, sorry, couldn't find that old sow. And she puts her hands on her hips and says, well, son, don't think nothing of it. That sow came back an hour after you boys left. And you slap your forehead and go, dang it, how come nobody came back and checked on that? Stories like that. Long and with embellishments to entertain. Things that we don't, sweet Jeebus. That was a deep hole. Things that we don't seem to do anymore as a society. Talk and interact. Tell stories. We let others entertain us. Although, I guess if there's one thing that YouTube does do, it does allow the storytellers among us to tell our stories and entertain others. And you never know. Maybe some little tidbit of information trickled out during a random story finds its way into a mind that makes good use of it someday. Gets a laugh, gets a chuckle. Who knows? Maybe even saves a life. Because, there's that fall again, we're going to go around. Because you never know what life will bring. I'm going to come around a little bit further out this time and see how close I cut it last time. I'm getting a little quiet here just because you've seen what my talking has done with some of the snow around us just falling off the trees just from me going by and the vibrations of my voice. So I will walk around and come this way. That snow was up to the boys right there. That was deep. Well, what? Look at that. Look at that. That is some grade A sinking, my friends. You can see where my heels punched through the snow, the frozen snow on the bottom there. That is no fun. That is another problem with following your own footsteps. if your previous footsteps cracked the frozen snow and you step on them again, it'll probably break through. All right, I will take us back over to where I took you guys out of the case, and I will put you guys back. See if you're still recording. If so, that would be great. That means that I got a good hour or so, 45 minutes maybe, out of this battery in below freezing cold, which I'm worried about because my old Kodak Sport would record 15 or 20 minutes and give up the ghost. Now this battery, charged it up, and then it sat in my GoPro for a couple of days while I was waiting for the snowstorm to blow over. And now we'll see what it did. So no fire, no beef stew, no camp. But I did get out and take a look around since the last couple of snowfalls now. And I know if I am going to make a camp along the trail here, it is going to have to be over the hill, down the other side, and probably in those little scrub pines. And what I want to do come springtime is right here in this area, I am going to build a cabin. And I'm going to bring you guys along for that. Show you what I'm doing, the progress of my work. Generally, all sorts of good things. All right, here's my frozen butt trunk. So, stick goes back in the stick hole. Backpack comes off. Butt on the butt stub. And sitting down. And then hat comes off. Oh, you are still recording. Hour and 3 minutes. And yeah. No idea. So we will shut you guys off. I will get you uploaded, and we'll go from there. Toodles. I went Viking today. What did you do?